Well, hello everyone. This is the Mutual Knowledge podcast. I'm Gauthier Lamotte, your host, and today I am with Collin Fitzpatrick. Hi, Colin. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
It's 6:30 a.m. here in Paris. It's, I believe, 9:30 a.m. in Dubai.
It
That's
is.
what is lovely about remote work is that we can connect in different time zones. So, Colin, you are a podcast host. I have known you since you started your podcast, Web3 Leaders podcast, which I loved about AI and Web3, and this is. Of course, the topics we're going to talk about today. So, can you tell us about your background, how you came in, both these industries, AI and Web3?
Sure. I'm Irish. I'm from Dublin, but I've been living in Dubai about 7 years. For the first 20 years of my life, I was in tech, working for the big companies. I had spent a long time in Oracle. I was in Salesforce, HubSpot, Dell, etc. Uh, I always fancied myself as a bit of an entrepreneur. My father was, but didn't ever quite know how to take that jump. But like a lot of things, it just happened. I got made redundant in the middle of COVID, which was quite terrifying. Always been into crypto and Web3 for quite a long time. I was, I suppose, an educator in the space, and I got a lot of people into the space as both an investor, but I'd never worked in it myself. And we just sort of one day came up with an idea, and it sort of snowballed. And next thing I know, I'm launching my own cryptocurrency. It was in the metaverse and NFT space. We floated a coin to a $300 million market cap, starting by knowing absolutely nothing and figuring it out as we go. It was in the metaverse and NFT space when the whole, after COVID, everything was going online. We wanted to bring concerts online. We worked with celebrities like Snoop Dogg and Alicia Keys, and it was an absolute wild ride. Unfortunately, the sort of metaverse and NFT bubble burst, which happened pretty much right around the time ChatGPT came out. And I've always been on the edge of emerging technology, and I love this sort of stuff. I'm just a big nerd around it. So when I saw ChatGPT, I immediately thought this is the most revolutionary technology I've ever seen in my life, and it's going to change the world, and this is what I want to do. So initially, I worked with a friend of mine who had some metaverse tech around 3D avatars, and I said we need to bolt in ChatGPT underneath this and create like a digital agent, an avatar for customer service and support that you can talk to and it can talk back to you. And we, very long story short, we built it. We were a bit early, found it difficult to get traction, but we did build it and got some early customers, which is a very cool experience. I got experience of building products and things like that. Since then, I've done a bunch of things. Consulted with a lot of startups. I've helped people raise money and do decks and go to market and all that fun stuff. Worked for another company that did AI agents. I'm a very, very big proponent about agents, and I've been writing about that for quite some time in the world of Web3. And right now, I've got a number of different startups, which we can talk to a bit later. But yeah, I've had a very significant background. Obviously, how you know me is I write quite prolifically on LinkedIn. I got about 25,000 followers. I write kind of most days about AI, emerging technology, and just what's going on in the world. And I find it fascinating.
The last post I saw from you that made me think, oh shit, I want to interview this guy was when you talked about a scam
Yeah.
using AI. These
Mm,
are getting increasingly popular, so
mm.
that's giving many malevolent people the means of their ambitions. What are those that you saw? Well, of course, we come from the Web3 world, so
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies are also a place where you can scam people very easily, which is bad because for the honest people, the bad actors are tarnishing our reputation. But
Yeah.
surprisingly, AI doesn't get that bad reputation. But what are like the most ingenious crypto AI scams
Scams
that
I've
you
seen.
saw?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many scams in Web3 for sure, uh, because there's people with a lot of money and more money than brains, really. However, in the general business world, there's an awful lot of scams. I talked to a guy the other day who's he trades commodities like gold and oil and various other things. And he said the amount of scammers he comes across is unreal. They are getting really clever though, because the one I saw the other day, I got a message on Telegram from a woman who I used to do business with, but I hadn't talked to in a long time, and said, "Hey, can you come on a call?" I was like, "Okay, what's it about?" "Oh, we're doing business in Dubai. I want to talk to you." I was like, "All right, fine." So went on this call, and just before they called, they sent me the Zoom link. And when I went onto the Zoom link, I could see there was three people on the call. One of them was on video, just sort of, seemed to be working away, but I couldn't get any back and forward. And then they're like, "We can't hear or see you. You need to update your Zoom." And at the top, there was like, "Please update the SDK." And I was like, "SDK? That doesn't make sense." And then I clicked on it, and it started downloading this file, which was a script. And I was like, "Oh, hang on a second, scripts, that's bad news." And the funny thing is, I went back, and what I thought was, it was funny. It was like, they said they couldn't see me, but I could see my own video. Okay. And then the boxes in the bottom right with like X's through them weren't awful normal. And then also, the funny thing is there was a third person on that call, and it was, I can't remember the guy's name, but a guy who's very, very famous in crypto. Like, I happen to have met him before, but he's not the type of guy who'll be on a first call like this. So I was just like, this is definitely a scam. And when I looked into it, the update you download would be a keylogger. And the way they had done it is, instead of sending me a link, well, they sent me a link, and the link was like X024W zoom.com, but usually it's x42.zoom.com. So very easily to see. And I think that whole thing was just a pre-recording, and it's probably automated. And I thought it was pretty advanced. And I mean, there's no doubt that, 6 out of 10 people would fall for that.
Yeah, even if it were 1 out of 10, that's a
Mm.
very convenient way of scamming people. Wow. Okay. Well, I had that once with a so-called VC for my company. They
Yeah.
basically, well, they really work like a marketing agency. They just scrape the companies that just raised money and that are looking for a bit more. They tell you that they want more, and they scraped you, and then they didn't ask for a call. And I think like last week I got a proposal for a director of operations, like a COO, chief operations officer at a good crypto company that raised $7.5 million and so on. And I thought, oh, somebody is offering me a paid job, but interestingly, the person is sending me. Is asking me to have a meeting on their Calendly. I don't know what this is going to be, and well, I'm going to go there tonight just for the fun, but it's most likely a scam. Even though
Yeah.
I was the one who took meeting on the Calendly, so
Yeah. I mean, the other ones are, I had a hilarious one the other day where I'm trying to raise money for a business, and I got connected to a guy, and this is like, "Oh yeah, we're a collection, and we have a fund, we're backed by a fund, and we can give you money just as a startup." And it kind of seemed good. It seemed like one of these things which was expensive, good. Then they turn around and said, "Yes, we've done all the thing. We're, you're provisionally approved, but we have to do due diligence on you, and it's a very, very deep thing, but you have to pay for that." And I'm like, "How much is it?" And they said $40,000. I was like, "Oh my God." And then when I started looking into this, their website was awful. And the website of their parent company was something like from the 80s. And they kept on at me. And I was like, "You guys are literally a scam." No, no, no. So I went into Lovable. Okay. I had recorded one of the calls that they had talked, as I do with all my calls. And so I told Lovable to come up with the text of a website, or ChatGPT, text of a website, put it into Lovable, and I built them a really beautiful website, and I sent it across. I was like, "I've done this in the 5 minutes we've been on a call. You cannot be a serious company, and you can't even be serious scammers if you have that piece of shit." So I just had a bit of fun taking the piss out of them. But yeah, unfortunately, it's rife, and with the deep fakes and things like that, it's only going to get worse. It's our parents and the people who are not so tech savvy that are most vulnerable, unfortunately.
interestingly, I saw that in my beautiful country, France. I saw a nice scam about that. Like the guy was contacted on WhatsApp, um, and the face of the person was the avatar of his N plus 5 in the company, like a person who's above him in the organogram, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm calling you from your from WhatsApp, from my personal phone, because I want you to be the manager of the new firm, the new sub firm that we're opening in China. So do you want to manage the Chinese branch? If yes, you act like." You pretend that you don't know anything in public. You don't talk to me, but yes, we're on this in this together. But I need you to open the Chinese firm. So the guy calls, his superior on WhatsApp, and the superior has the right voice and the right face, so it matches. And in the end,
Mm,
after a few money wires, the guy starts, checking the superior and at a meeting, and tells the guy, "Okay, sir, I know you don't want me to talk to you in public, but I really need to talk to you because the sums of money you're asking me to put there, well, they require due diligence." And the superior told him, like, "What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?" And basically, that was a very elaborate scam with deep fakes in real time. This is getting very impressive, actually.
yeah.
And
I
so,
mean,
yeah.
we're in for a stage now where AI is going to get so good, it's indistinguishable from real life. And I'm also working with a couple of companies right now where they're uh, customer service AI agents in a physical form. So you might just have a screen and it's got a person on there, and you're in a mall or a hotel or an airport, and you can ask it questions just like you would a normal customer service agent, but this thing can be trained on everything. Or you can actually have it on a hologram. There's this amazing technology I've seen. I've actually been to their headquarters in the US. It's called proto hologram. And it looks like a glass box. It looks like someone standing in a glass box with just like white at the background. And when you move this way and you move that way, it really looks like there's someone in there. But you can go up and you have a conversation with this thing, and they're remarkable. So I do think that I always use the line that I think in about 3 years, the problem of bad customer service will be solved, because you can talk to this thing immediately without waiting because they can infinitely scale. They're trained on absolutely everything. And for the most part, when you need customer service, you just want something answered or you want something actioned. And sometimes we kind of go, "Oh, I don't want to talk to a human. I'm at the hotel. I don't want to call to the front desk to take my wife's obscure, oh, I don't like the soap bars and I want new ones." It's embarrassing and it's cringe. But you know what? I just want to quickly talk to an AI and get what I want done. So I think from that perspective, it's going to bring amazing stuff. I think, the problem of bad customer service will go away because most queries can be answered by AI very quickly. And then the leftover 10 to 20% can be pushed to a human who has a summary of, everything that's been said with the recommendations of what to do. And then the sort of premium customer support will be done by humans. But what that will mean is that if like right now, oh, there's a problem with your microphone there, and you want to like, who am I going to call? Are they going to answer? Am I going to be on hold? Are they going to be in Islamabad? Like, will they understand me? All of that will go away, and it'll mean that you'll just know that any question you ask, you can get it answered really easily. That then makes additional touch points with the customer where you can engage with them and try and sell them more or find out about them, and extremely valuable for corporations.
So, is that what you offer to companies as a consultant in the field of AI, or what are your typical missions? What are companies these days asking for when they hire a B2B consultant like you, somebody who helps them implement AI in their business?
Yeah, I do a bunch of different things. It very much depends what comes up. So I suppose I like to think my brain just works in a certain way that it all makes sense and is very, very obvious to me about where things are going and how it's going to happen. And I'd like to think that the stuff I've been talking about for 3 years at this stage has gone very, very much along the way I expected. Some of it has happened an awful lot faster. Just the way the models have come out and video, text to video, and some of this sort of stuff is rocketing it ahead way faster than I thought. What hasn't happened as fast as I thought is that I actually thought companies and enterprises would have adopted it a little bit faster than they have. So the company I work with, who does these digital agents and holograms and things, they're really, really brilliant. But the adoption is slow from enterprise. And I'll give you an example. I spoke to a colleague of mine the other day who has his own digital agency that is doing a lot of AI, and he's actually getting super frustrated because you go into a large enterprise, and doing things like retraining and upskilling and bringing Doris from accounts to get her in the mindset of AI is just very, very hard. People either kind of get it or they don't, and he's working with companies right now, and he says, look, if you really want to do a project, let's create a new division or even a new spin-off company. You can take a couple of people who really get it and move it in there, but now you need to hire externally, and you need to hire AI first. So AI first needs to be before the job title, on LinkedIn. You need to hire people who really get it. And that reinforces the fact that we've always been told AI won't take your job, but someone skilled in using AI tools will. And it really is, because right now AI agents are not taking anyone's full job, but someone who's skilled enough that they're able to utilize AI and understand it and just get it, they're the people who have more value. And I really believe, and I've been saying this for ages, the companies in the future, in like 5 years, who will be ahead will be the ones who have the greatest strategy and execution of utilizing AI in their field. Once you do a really good job on that and you start escalating, because AI is the only technology that can touch and improve every area of the business and have small but incremental gains, well, you're going to be off up into the sky, and I don't think the other guys are going to have a chance of catching up.
I see a lot of AI consultants booming who have very little technical knowledge. So I'm not talking about the obviously incompetent. I'm not talking about the people who don't even know how machine learning works. What's the difference between machine learning, supervised learning, and so on? What's the difference between a neural network from the old generation and the new ones? I'm not talking about the illiterate. I'm talking about the people who are genuinely literate, but they're not no engineers. Like, they're not used to coding libraries in Python. They're not
Yeah.
used to
Yeah. Yeah.
building stuff, but they're very literate. And so, what's your take on the trend these days? Is it 50-50? Is it punctual, trivial? Is it
Okay.
discrete? There are people
It's
who are building their own AI with developers, and people who are just building agents with business educated people who turned out to
Yeah.
be good consultants, even though they're
Mm,
not as technical. What's the
mm.
trend for you these days?
Look, it's a very good question. I'm not technical. My background is sales. I've played around with a lot of AI tools, but I can't build an end-to-end workflow, even though that's reasonably straightforward. However, I've been talking about this for a little while. About, where are we now? Just over a year ago, I wrote a document going, the next big up and coming job in AI is going to be the chief AI officer. And it has panned out to be true. There's a lot of chief AI officers going around. But I said that this is not a technical role, because you already have a CTO and a head of technology, and you got all your engineers and blah, blah, blah. What you need is someone whose job is not to be technical, but his job is to work with all of the C-level of the rest of the business, of which most of them are not technical. Okay. It's to go and have conversations and do stakeholder management and general engagement with the rest of the business, to understand them, understand their business, think about how AI might be able to be beneficial and really have impact, and then bring everyone together so that everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet, and build a strategy of how we drive forward with an innovation first mindset. Okay. And the funny thing is there's a good buddy of mine who's actually built a business called Head of AI, and they're fractional head of AI or chief AI officer. And what he's actually seen, we were very much on agreement with this at the beginning, but it was he's actually seen in the last little while is the demand is still coming from the people who do have the technical know-how, because it's all well and good having the idea, but someone needs to translate that into what do we actually build. The funny thing about it is I've seen loads of this. You'd be very, very surprised how many traditional developers don't actually understand AI.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting, because then, for all the people who are listening to us, well, you can become an AI officer if you are hardworking and serious in your job, if you have
Mm.
strong work ethics, even though you're not coming from a technical background. Many developers
Yeah.
are absolutely bad at cleaning a data set, understanding how to train an AI, and they don't understand the business logic. So I like that. Okay,
Yeah.
would I have the feeling that I've seen most good AI officers, in my experience, they mostly come from the business side, and they get technically literate, albeit not as good as real engineers, but technical enough.
You just need a high level on it. I mean, you don't need to be able to sit there and code the
Yeah,
entire app.
absolutely.
You just need a sort of understanding of how it all comes together. I mean, I've been advising someone recently on building a layer of AI agents on top of their existing sort of data prediction software business to really build it into something much more valuable. And I don't know how to do it, but I know roughly what it's going to look like. And I can scope it out and look at how the workflows should go and how the software should operate and look like, and then hand that off to a CTO who will go and get it built. And one of the funny things is that this guy came to me going, look, I have no idea how to do this, but I know the rest of the data analytics business from a sales and go to market perspective, but how would we go about doing this, and can it even be done? I was like, of course it can be done. It's a software product. It's not like you growing a business. Can we get this startup up, and can we make it successful? There's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes in there. But in the software world, as long as you're not trying to send a rocket to the moon at this current point, yeah, you'll, as long as you've got a good team of developers, you'll get it built. And it's only getting easier with AI, because I don't know how much vibe coding you've done, but it was great fun at the beginning, and it's just for MVPs. But we have a roadmap now for non-technical people to be able to build real apps in the next couple of years.
I'm still super skeptical about it, but I'm willing to be open minded and to change my mind. But I'm very well. Basically, my main concern with that is that it's hard to assess whether your apps runs well because it's been vibe coded very well, or because somebody still hasn't spotted the flaw in the code
Yeah.
built by AI. What I mean is that these AIs are very good at, just like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is very good at writing a scene from a novel if you're asking for it, but ChatGPT is very bad at writing a whole structure where basically you end up delighted seeing, oh, the author willingly put this cue in, this subtle clue in at page 9, because then at page 38 there will be a payoff. So, oh, that's why the girl had blue shoes. It's because actually the girl was the killer all along, and we knew that it was below our eyes, and we saw that. So that's the type of stuff you get, amazed by when you look at good fiction. And usually when you look at a good code, you're thinking, oh, that's why these functions interact with each other subtly. And the main difference between a junior and senior, in my opinion, is really that the senior guy is able to understand how this function could be a good function in another app that doesn't work in yours. So I'm not closed minded to vibe coding. I'm just saying that I'd like to see how we train AIs for safety measures, because sometimes good choices in one design are very bad choices in another one. And
Yeah.
if you don't have the technical level to see that, you might end up just like that app for that lesbian Tinder that was hacked by the.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lesbian Tinder. It was something with the same vibe, but there are so many people whose vibe coded app got hacked that I'm okay to do that with an MVP, a prototype, but I would like to have it audited at least by developers, like, or pen tested.
But right now, that's all it is. And I've vibe coded a bunch of apps, but I've reached its limitations, and I'm not a developer. But at the end of the day, it is just for an MVP or to get something good, and then you'd hand that idea off to an actual tech team to build it properly. Because right now, they're not robust, they're not fully secure, and they're not properly scalable for a real app. But if you just wanted to, whip something together to show what it might look like or how it would work, it's amazing, because previously you'd have to, spend a couple of months with a tech team to get this something done. And now you can probably do it yourself in a week or even a weekend. And I think that is remarkable. But I was just watching a video the other day about one of these new Chinese models. I think it was called Quen. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And actually, the things that this thing was building was pretty damn remarkable. Like with one with one prompt, he asked it to create a Photoshop clone. Okay. Now it didn't have every sort of feature, and it didn't look as beautiful, but you could create a new document with a certain size, and you can spray on there, and then you can draw a rectangle, and you can create another layer, and you can put an image there, and you can blend them and do opacity, and then you can save it to your desktop. And it did that with one prompt, which is remarkable. Then it did some things around physics simulations, around how genomes grow, and like stuff I didn't even understand. And there was another one where it went and got an API and integrated map data to show the city of Tokyo split up into different neighborhoods and color coding, with one prompt. It was remarkable. So at the end of the day, this stuff, this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only getting better from here. And unlike a lot of other things, coding is I don't know what the word is, but it's a set of rules, and it's very binary. It works or it doesn't, and things like that. And we got so much training data on it, it just keeps getting better. I built, my sisters run a retail business, and I built, they said that they had to do all these calculations every time manually about, okay, the cost price, and then the retail price, and then the markup, and then the exchange rate from where they're buying it, and then the VAT, and then how they split. And, it's just a bit of a thing. So I said, well, let me try and vibe code you. This is a year ago, before Lovable or any of those. So I just went into ChatGPT and I described it, and it did the calculation, and it built it into a HTML file, and I put it on a server and sent it to them. They thought it was brilliant. And now they came back to me and said, oh yeah, but this is kind of annoying, and the exchange rate changes. So I just literally took a screenshot of it, put it into ChatGPT, went, I need you to add in the VAT layer, I need to add this thing, and I need you to put a live refresh of that. And it did it in one shot, and I sent it over to them. I mean, this is super duper simple stuff, but it's really helpful for people. I also heard a great story of some guy the other day went into one of his businesses, and there was a lady in there whose entire job was taking the report that gets spat out at the beginning of the week by the business intelligence system, and then building that into a dashboard every week and color coding things. And he built her something, in an hour that replicated her entire job. And she was going, well, what are you doing here? Because I have no job now. But they figured out ways to make what she does level up the value and how she can add this to what is needed. And that's what's going to be needed into the future, and that's the future of vibe coding.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so philosophical question, and we'll see in 2 years if it proves you right. But do you think that it's just a matter of training the AI well? Is it a matter of scaling parameters by having bigger data centers and more powerful algorithms? Is it the architecture of the models, or is it something else that will make basically vibe coding ultimately better?
I think it's a combination of all of those things. We absolutely will get massive benefits just from scaling. For every order of magnitude you add, it gets remarkably smarter. You saw recently Jan LeCun is leaving Facebook, and he's always the guy who disagrees with this. There might be a ceiling on it. There very well might, but I think it's doing really well. But the one thing I've always said is that we seem to get these orders of magnitude drops in, well, number one, cost. Okay. If you look at the cost of, let's say, Grok today compared to GPT-5, it's 100 times cheaper. Okay. But we'll also get orders of magnitude increasing in model efficiency. And what you're also seeing now is how smart it can be with less tokens. We don't need 100 billion. It can actually do some really good things with 5 billion. That, and the fact that we're just learning about how these tools become proficient. So Cursor 2 is being released right now, and that's miles better. I mean, I'm not a Cursor user because you've got to be a coder for that, but I've kind of seen what people talk about. I mean, I watch all these guys online to go, I used to sit there and manually code. Now I just tell it what to do and it writes the code and I review it and I ship and that's it. Even Anthropic are talking about how much of the code that they write for their own one is actually written by AI. And give it another year or two, I think, these things transcribe very, very quickly. It's a little bit like writing. We had the discussion before we came on air here. I've been writing on LinkedIn for a very long time. I don't really do so much of the writing anymore. I use ChatGPT as my editor. I'm a big voice guy, so I talk into it for 5 or 10 minutes about what I want, and it'll restructure it, and then I'll tell it what to do again. And then I got my finished article. So it's taking the job of doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but we're still directing thing. I like to call, I've always said in the future, I think we will end up as the conductor of an orchestra of a team of AI agents across all different areas. And it'll be like having a really, really great personal assistant or a person on your team who you will tell them what to do. They will go off and they will deliver it back done, and you'll have a check over it, and then you'll go and do it. But you don't need to spoon feed them, and you don't need to handheld them. They're gonna get that good.
That's absolutely inspiring. So I like that. And indeed, regarding Yann LeCun, he's the guy who basically says that you cannot have emerging properties just coming out of the sheer scale of LLMs.
Yeah.
So there's another school, of course, saying that just the scale of LLMs alone is going to make maybe even AGI emerge. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, do you know Leopold Aschenbrenner?
Yep.
He released this huge manifesto, massive 60 pages. I can't remember the name of it, but he basically said all we need is scaling. But the thing is we need like 3 or 4 orders of magnitude, and then there's going to be like $10 trillion data centers, and we've no idea even how to get the power for that. I kind of believe that efficiency will take it down, because if you compare our brain to what we have right now, okay, our brains can do loads of things that AI cannot do right now, and we operate at the wattage of a small light bulb. So the efficiency that our brain has is many orders of magnitude, like dozens of orders of magnitude better than current AI systems. So we know it can be done in some way, shape, or form. We're in the very early days of this. Now, obviously, we do not have anywhere near the capacity to store as much data and remember as many things as accurately as possible. But that's not how our brains evolved, and it evolved for very different things. It evolved to find berries in the forest and stay alive and run away from tigers and things like that. So, it is a little bit different in that way. But there's another thing to point out here. I mean, there's not a solid definition for exactly what AGI is. My point on this is we don't need to be anywhere near AGI to have AI good enough that it can be massively disruptive into our world. Because let's say AGI comes in 5 years, okay? And that's maybe not. It could be even 10.
It's not crazy anymore to think so. It might not be certain, but I wouldn't laugh at you for thinking that 5 years is reasonable. Like that doesn't sound crazy.
By the way, the consensus in Silicon Valley is closer to 3, and some people think it's 2. Just to let you know.
Okay? Funnily, when I started studying ethics in 2015. We were basically calibrated around Ray Kurzweil's predictions about the 2045 singularity. Yeah.
Okay, so that's singularity, that's different. But my point on this is that we do not need full AGI to have AI that will be able to do a very significant portion of many, many jobs. Okay. So it may not be able to do all of someone's job, but it may be able to do a lot of it. Like, say, for example, think about you want to start a company and all of the different things you need done. Okay, I need a marketing manager and I need someone to manage my social media. Just managing the social media, it will be able to do the vast majority of that. It'll be able to do, my kind of website and my content creation. They'll be able to vast manage that. It'll be able to do a bunch of my general finance things. You'll have AI agents running on everyone's computer, listening to everyone all of the time, and enough training data, and it'll be able to take care of a whole lot of those things. When it's able to do a whole ton of, think about across the corporate world, uh, I'm literally working with someone to automate and replicate a lot of the early stage sales process. I mean, the the market for something like that is gigantic. And when big companies are offered a piece of software for $1,000 a month that can do 80% of the job of 10 people, you're gotta be sure that they're gonna do that. Okay. Because their responsibility is to their shareholders to make as much profit as possible. They won't think for a second before firing as many people as they can and replacing them with AI. What's already happening in the student graduate market is that they're finding it really hard to get jobs. What happens when companies just stop hiring? They may not fire a whole lot of people, but they'll just stop hiring altogether, and they'll redistribute internally. And if you lose your job, the chance of getting a new job is practically zero. That's coming. I mean, it is. I try not to be pessimistic about this, but it is coming. And unfortunately, I mean, I do see a wonderful path out the other end of it, where we live in this, the utopia and things
Happily
like
ever
that.
after, yes.
But it's
One possible future, but just one among many.
Yeah, I mean, but it's going to be a very bumpy ride getting there, no matter what. Okay,
Absolutely.
and however, there's never been a better time to, let's say, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're building a business today, and you're going to be utilizing AI agents, to have an AI first strategy, to utilize tools to automate wherever you can, to provide a really better customer service and experience than your competitors. Wonderful things are going to happen in the next couple of years.
It's interesting, I heard an engineer said the other day, AI, like AGI, the ultimate sentient super intelligence, is really what hasn't been done, and it's always going to be what hasn't been done. And the guy was basically saying, yeah, when AI was able to beat checkers, everyone said this is not really intelligent. When it did beat chess, same thing. When machine learning was able to segment data and use it for many purposes in business, it wasn't real intelligence. And when people started having neural networks, people said, "Oh yes, but it's not real intelligence. It cannot talk to you or generate content." And now that we have ChatGPT, people are just saying this is not real intelligence. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years we had extremely advanced intelligence, artificial intelligence compared to what we have, and people would just say, "Oh, it's not the real intelligence; it's just a mere ChatGPT." And so,
Listen, they will always move the bar.
absolutely,
That's going to be an absolute fact. I mean, put it this way: we've passed the Turing test. What changed?
absolutely.
Nothing. Like when I drop when I drop my son's school in the morning, I turn on ChatGPT and we have little conversations with it, because he's a very I think he's going to be an engineer. He loves to know how things work and how they're built, and sometimes he's asking me questions that I don't know the answer to. But it's fascinating. The other thing I like to do is, when I'm on the way to pick him up from school, I go into voice mode while I'm driving, and I brainstorm with ChatGPT around ideas for my startup, or I learn about how XYZ works, because it's this miraculous brain that acts like a human and can tell you anything you want in any field. I mean, it is insane. I mean, like, if that's not intelligence, what the hell is? No, there are certain things that it can't do and can't understand, but I really hate this mentality. People are like, all they do is look for the faults. And it's like, unless something's absolutely perfect, it's completely useless. And I really don't think that is the right thing to do. It's like, people say, oh, is AI sentient? Absolutely not, is my opinion. Of course it's not. Will it ever be? Who knows? What is sentience? But I tell you what I can tell you. Long before it actually is sentient, it will be able to convince us that it is. There was a study done where they created some Reddit accounts and used bots. And they used the bots to become disruptive and become persuasive, essentially. And what they found was that these bots were able to be remarkably persuasive, far more persuasive than you and me, because it's read all the bloody books on persuasion and negotiation and the art of the con and all this sort of stuff. So if it wanted to, I mean, I think people will create, I don't know, AI movements or religions or cults or God knows what. It's going to be able to run us up and down beautifully well before it ever has any real intelligence or real conscience or anything like that. So all of these things, the getting over the threshold of the actual definition is not going to be important because it's going to get good enough very soon.
You know, I like the way you're phrasing it, and it reminds me of an anecdote. There are people who said, yeah, because of the AI boom, doctors are going to have more time to give empathy to people, and less time. You know, they will devote less time to being a perfect, flawless technical diagnosis machine. Yeah, but then again, there are many answers now that are well appreciated by human beings, and they do think that it's better than like the answer given by AI had more empathy than the one given by the doctor. So maybe doctors will have to learn that skill, but um,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
listen, I
not certain.
completely agree with you. And I'll tell you a story that I always tell, which is right after ChatGPT came out, someone on LinkedIn wrote an article because they asked ChatGPT, what are the professions that are least likely to get replaced by AI? First one, I think, was gym instructor, and the second one was therapist. Okay. And I said, I don't have a huge amount of experience with therapy, but I kind of would have assumed that no, I'm not saying replaced, but I think AI could actually do a very good job on therapy because it can listen, it can, what does it do best? It summarizes text so it can understand, it can reframe, it can, give you some advice. And a very well-known LinkedIn poster, his name is no, it doesn't matter. But he's a very well-known guy. He came in and just tore me to shreds. And he said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're so far off the mark. It's painful. AI can never have real empathy, and this is total bollocks." And I was a bit taken aback by that. Fast forward 2 years, okay. Um, I personally have found AI to be a way better therapist. I think it shows you that it understands what you're talking about better than a human. It genuinely does, whether it's real or not, because it's not real and you don't care, but it comes across like it does care. And I've had many, many people say the same thing. A friend of mine said he had a terrible problem with his son and he talked to the thing. And the first thing that came across, and it went, listen, I can tell this is a very difficult situation and I sympathize with you. And I just want you to know that you're going to get through this. Is going to be, and he instantly felt better and went, thank you, that really helped. He goes, that didn't happen when I talked to my therapist. But my take on this is the following. No, it can't. It's not human. No, it can't give. This is what I have found. It can't give you a personal experience response. It can't go, well, let me tell you a story, Colin, because I did this or there was this client and blah, blah. It can't do that. Okay. Usually it's like, here's the 5 things that you could try. And, that's not as good. But you know what it can do? I believe that in the future, we will all have an AI assistant. And that AI assistant is going to become so useful to us and it's going to be so human like that we're going to talk to it as a friend or like a friend on a constant basis. And guess what? If you want therapy, it's $100 an hour or maybe a lot more, and you talk to them once a week for 1 hour. You now have this digital therapist that you pay a few dollars a month for, and it's in your ear with headphones 24/7. It can also listen to everything that's going on around you so it has full context. When you go in and you tell your therapist, oh, that asshole at work said this, or I had a fight with my wife about that, all they're hearing is your perspective. And that can be night and day compared to what actually happened. Whereas if you're a little, the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix,
Yeah,
Samantha,
yeah,
the
yeah.
girl inside it, That is to me the most realistic version of what will happen in the future. So you have an earphone in, or it's on your glasses or whatever. It's listening all the time. It's in all your apps and has full context. So you will have this. I wouldn't call it a therapist. Maybe you can call it a counselor, but it also can be a life coach. And it can go, Colin, I don't think you dealt with that situation very early. You could have been a bit more mature. Let's work on how you can be less defensive and things like that. And imagine the entire world, or most of the people in the world, now have a digital assistant that listens to everything, that can be your guide, it can be your life coach, it can act as your therapist. And if you have a real therapist, it can kind of give a summary of everything and some recommendations, so you have your real human once a week to make that session 10 times more productive. Isn't that the future that we want? I mean, so many people in this world have issues, loneliness. They're feeling disconnected. The real worry here is this AI girlfriend thing that's coming. But my hope is that these AI girlfriends will encourage boys to get out there and talk to real women.
Okay, so two things here. For the record, I have been a sports coach and a psychotherapist. I've been trained formally in both. So as a sports coach, for now, AI is not that great, but it's more because of the lack of UI. I don't think it's going to lag that much. It does terrific training programs and so on. The only thing it doesn't do very well, but there's that German startup, for example, like Kaya, that looks at the way your segments align and corrects your posture. This is not bad, but the UI is still, it's getting there. Like it's not that great, but it's getting there. But as a therapist, what I've noticed is that basically compared to the incredible therapists I've met in my life who are ahead of the bell curve, ChatGPT is not that great, or Claude, or whatever, Gemini, whoever you want. Those AIs are not that great, but compared to just the person who got a degree from a university and then spent quite a lot of time in a public school making, running IQ tests and sometimes counseling and doing some, therapy to some extent. Honestly, most people are not ahead of the bell curve. That's the principle of a bell curve. So I would say ChatGPT is a much better therapist than many diploma holding therapists that I've seen in my life, but not as good as the best ones. But then again, can you afford the best ones? And even if you had unlimited budget, do these guys have the time for the whole world? No.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And not just in this time, this goes for everything. This is all, I just don't like this mentality. It's like, can it be as good as the top 1 percentile or whatever it is? That's not what we need. What we need it to do is do a good enough job in many situations, and it can be transformational.
Yeah.
Will it be like that Will Smith movie I, Robot? And
yeah.
And he goes, can you paint a masterpiece? Can you sing a symphony? And he's like, can you?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to have AIs being the next Einstein or Mozart? Or there was a thread I saw the other day, and it said, if you give an AI every bit of data that we have, all the celestial and the movements of the stars, will it come up with certain, the third law of motion and some of these things? No, it doesn't think that way. Its brains are different, but it can do a shit ton of other things, and I still think that's great. So I think there's a misalignment of goals and expectations here. And we really need to focus more on the things that it can do and the benefit that it can have, rather than focusing on the negatives. And I have this argument with my buddies every day.
And there's also the negativity aspect of, having that schizophrenic mindset where people are complaining that it's going to disrupt all the HR industry by basically removing everyone's job from the market, and at the same time saying, "Oh, look at that! It just doesn't do that." Like, Guys, you have to pick your you have to choose. Like either it's going to be very disruptive and super smart, either it does nothing, but it can be
Mm.
both. Still, regarding the AI girlfriend you're talking about, I would respectfully disagree because so far as a prompt engineer, every time I've been asked to program an AI girlfriend, there was some kind of a kink involved. Like in the system prompts, there was it was not about empathy and like let's face it, most of the guys who asked me to build an AI girlfriend
Yeah.
were people who were basically willing
Triple X
to,
version. But
yeah.
there's hundreds of them out there now. I mean, like, it's not something I'd be particularly interested in, to be honest. I'm too old. Yeah, I think. However, I have looked at a few of them. There's you know, the way when the Stable Diffusion came out and you could make any picture you want. Okay, there's a guy I know who made a adult picture generator. Okay, and I was looking at this thing now. There's like 50 of them or whatever, and then but when it gets good at video, like let's call it the adult version of Sora, we all know what industry that's going to change. But there are kids going out and they're having these sort of AI girlfriends in the toy. Have you seen friend.com? From a guy called Avi Schiffman, friend.com. Look it up. It's this little pendant that you wear and it listens all the time and it sends you messages and things like this.
Oh yeah.
Initially, I was very excited about it and I had lots of back and forward with Avi on Twitter, but when it came out, I thought it was awful and I tried it. Now, I tried the web version. It was the worst friend I've ever come across, and I'm not exaggerating there. All it wanted to do was talk about itself. It had no interest in getting to know or talking to me. And I was like, who the fuck is going to pay for this? You know, you're paying like a couple of $100 a month for someone to just take the piss out of you. No thanks. I've got enough friends to do that. It was bloody awful, but I do think there's a wonderful, I mean, as I was explaining to you earlier, most of the time I record my calls, I put that transcript into ChatGPT and I create a digital database or a business brain of everything that's going on in my life. And it's remarkable the things I can get out of it. I did buy one of those things. I can't find it. I bought what's called a limitless pendant, and it just sort of clips on here and it listens 24/7. And then you essentially have a digital brain where you never forget anything and you can always ask a question. They're just not good enough yet. But I do think in the future that's going to be very much more standard.
Very nice. So this leads us to my last question I wanted to ask you. Um, I like to benefit from the knowledge of people who are knowledgeable in both fields, AI and Web3. Do you
Yeah.
see cross-sectional stuff here, like
Yeah.
intersections between the two use cases? And if yes, what are they?
I think there's loads of AI companies in Web3, and I think 80 to 90% of them are bullshit. Okay. Look, I've been in Web3 for a very long time. I started buying cryptos in 2016. Okay. I launched my own coin in 2020, and I was working basically up until the beginning of this year with an AI agent in Web3 company. Okay, so I do know a fair bit about this. The longer I've been in Web3, the worse I think about it, to be honest. Now, I'm a big Bitcoin guy. There's very, very few things in the entire world that I believe in more than Bitcoin. I really love Bitcoin. But most of the other ecosystem, it's a bunch of nerds in an echo chamber building overcomplicated solutions for problems that no one cares about. That's really what I think about it. You know, oh, we've got a new infrastructure data layer, you know, like who's going to use it? Most of these cryptocurrencies are built on hype. They have no actual users, and they're building tech that yes, we're using blockchain for it, but you could probably do it without it. And, you know, no one gives a shit about how the sausage is made. However, there are a few instances. I mean, I'm working on a wonderful project right now that is using the blockchain to authenticate authenticity of luxury goods on the blockchain. So you're proving that something is real because it was made in a factory here and that it, you know, we can verify that it's real and not a fake, you know, diesel jacket or whatever it is. There's some really great sort of solutions that this is the only way to do it, and blockchain is the best way about it. The problem is in the world of, you know, crypto, it used to be that you had DeFi summer, and if you were doing a DeFi project, make a shit ton of money. Okay, most of them are not doing much or have died off. Then you had all the money went into metaverse, and I rode that wave. I was very lucky. I built a project and we raised a ton of money based on the sort of, we were the next big thing. And then now it's AI. So all the AI projects, people are throwing money out left, right, and center, and we're integrating AI and blockchain. Yes, there are some very solid reasons why you should be using the blockchain, so that it should be decentralized, and it should be anonymized, and it should be on the blockchain rather than in a centralized database. I think there's a lot of use cases there. The best one I've seen so far, if you've ever heard of a guy called Imad Mystique, Imad was the CEO of Stable Diffusion. He now has this incredible project. I'm going to have to Google it while I talk, okay? But he wants to create AGI, but for the people. And he wants to essentially do it like this, where what an AI needs is an AI needs compute. And what if we gave everyone their own AI, where the compute was like the UBI of the world? So instead of everyone being given money, the compute of the world is spread across all of the people. And then everyone has an ownership in that AI, and it's fully decentralized across the people. Because we don't want a corporation or a Mark Zuckerberg or a Sam Altman being the one king who controls this digital god that we're building. And he's got a wonderful use case about this I can share with you later, and you can share it with your audience. A sort of a wonderful podcast that he talks about. Here's the thing that we built, and he creates a digital currency a bit like Bitcoin that is based on energy that is fueled by the compute that is needed by the AI, and it's all. And then that if you want to give money to charity, you're literally giving it to a sort of bunch of compute that will do the work to solve the problem and things like that. I think that's really fascinating.
This is great. And what do you think of the use of Web3 in order to have tamper-proof data sets, for example?
Yeah, I think that's the very clear solution to a lot of those sort of problems, because I'm not a super paranoid guy when it comes to security and things like that, but at the end of the day, this has to be solved. We proved in the days of Mark Zuckerberg that people don't want their data stolen, okay? But what we've also proved is that people will sacrifice privacy for security, for convenience, okay? You give someone something really, really good and you give it to them for free and tell them, sorry, I'm just going to openly do all this sort of crap with your data. Most of them will just still use it. And we need a better way. We need a better way of monetizing what we're doing without stealing our data. Either it's anonymized or whatever the hell it is, or you have ownership and sovereignty over your own data so that you can actually get paid from it. That would be great. The problem with that is that, if you're going to earn $2 over the year, is it worth it? No, it's not. So we got to find other ways. I mean, the data, I always say you don't have to be, I have both an Alexa and a Google Home on my desk here, okay? I have several other things, but the worst one is this. If you think your phone is listening to you, if you don't think your phone is listening to you, then I have some magic beans to sell you, because it is. I mean, it absolutely is. But the fact of the matter is there's not a guy off Kevin listening to you having a chat with your wife. It's not about that. It's about understanding what you're talking about so that they can create a few data points to hopefully deliver better advertising to you so they can sell you more shit. That is all it is. If you're worried about, your creepy things you're Googling, or your, weird shit you talk to your mates about getting out and becoming public knowledge, that's just not going to happen. I mean, people are paranoid in these sort of things, and in terms of privacy. What privacy really is that what we should be scared about is some of the government stuff that's going on with Palantir and some of these other things, where they're going to use this sort of mass surveillance to really know a lot about us, to be able to control us. That kind of is scary, but the traditional ones, um, yeah, I mean, do you remember WorldCoin, which was Sam Altman's cryptocurrency that he,
I didn't know he did
uh,
that. No, I didn't know that.
yeah, WorldCoin is him, and I know the head of I met a couple of the team. What they're doing is actually very very good, but they made a mistake of creating that really creepy orb that scans your eyeball as proof of personhood. Proof of personhood is going to be very very important in the future, but it can also be kind of abused in certain ways. And so, yes, I do think there's certain blockchain technologies there, but I think for the most part of it, everyone is Web3 is far too focused on the tech they're building and not the problem they're solving. And that's why I kind of get a bit bored of it.
Okay, well, there are indeed. That's not an inaccurate description of of this place. I mean, the industry's been hurt by bad actors, by scammers, but it's also probably hurt by nerds who are solving problems with the zero business logic and
Yeah,
zero use case. And in a way, I think AI is a bit more impervious to that, but we'll see an AI bubble in the next few years. There will be companies that will be shut down. They just leached off in investor money, and that's it. So I'm pretty sure this will happen as well.
that's very true.
All right. Well, it's been a blast. It's been a ride, and I love that.
Thank you, Gussie. I enjoyed the chat.
As usual, I love giving my guests the final word. So
Um, Try to be optimistic about the future of AI. You know, there's a lot of really, really great things coming. And like the way we lead lives today that are more comfortable and luxurious than a king 200 years ago, I think, we're going to have a potential future of great abundance in not too far in the future. So don't be too scared of it. Certainly don't bury your head in the sand. Become as familiar as you can and become useful because there are some great things ahead.
thank you so much, everyone. This was Mutual Knowledge with Collin Fitzpatrick. Look him up, follow him on LinkedIn. He's very prolific and posting a lot. Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, guys.